Stay free with me, Russell Brand.
Mate, after the G20 Leaders Summit, your man Biden returned from Bali, and I'm calling him your man, with the G20 Leaders Declaration that has a clause in it that says that signatories have agreed to facilitate seamless international travel under the condition that digital IDs be implemented. In a sense, it's the revival of the vaccine passport idea. What do you think about this idea? And what do you think about the way that the pandemic was used to sort of normalize these kind of notions?
Well, first of all, I think that was scary. I'm always worried when there are major declarations or major things done and there's no press about it. They came to a pretty heavy decision, but didn't really propagandize it much. I saw it through a tweet from the actor Tim Robbins, and then I looked into it. But look, I think there's no secret to the fact that when governments want to do something in an authoritarian direction, it's always an emergency. They always have some kind of reason. We have to do it just this once because it's an extraordinary situation. We need censorship. We need to be able to limit people's travel. We need to be able to have a digital passport system that lets us know where you are at all times because of the pandemic. And people fall for that. And that's the thing, is you have to fight against that precisely in that moment when it is an emergency. And I think that's what people don't understand, is that they get convinced, oh yeah, okay, well, this is the kind of moment where we have to give up our rights about this or that because it's too important to squawk about. But you really have to worry about this stuff.
Is there any sense that since that post Snowden and Assange, that the American deep state has begun to self-regulate meaningfully? Or do you think that there is infiltration of big tech platforms that suggest that the CIA and FBI have significant operatives within those platforms that mean that there is already a kind of porous membrane between the deep state and big tech platforms? So this kind of digital surveillance is already underway, and any further implementation, let alone mandates around it, would ultimately mean the kind of the delivery of a social credit score system.
Well, we know for a fact, we don't have to speculate, that the intelligence agencies have very profound relationships with all of these platforms. They have since 9/11, really. They've been accessing your personal information through a variety of means, including through the use of things called national security letters, where the FBI can send a letter to, let's just say, your email carrier, and the carrier will be barred by law from telling you that they've gotten the subpoena, and they will have to turn over all of your information to the FBI. They send tens of thousands of those letters out every year. They've been doing that for 20 years now.
Oh my God.
And we know now that thanks to some new reporting, that the DHS has a permanent standing committee that advises all of these platforms on what kind of content is and is not appropriate. We know they've intervened in high profile cases like the Hunter Biden email story. So yes, it's essentially, they're intertwined at this point. I was shocked last year. I was doing a story randomly about some guy who got kicked off YouTube for something having to do with the vaccine, and they told me flat out that they got their instructions about what to ban and not to ban from the CDC and the NIH. So they're not even embarrassed about it at this point. So yes, clearly that's where that relationship exists.
So the idea that there is a moral barometer at the center of these policies is ridiculous. The idea that, even the 4 people that have just been reinstated on Twitter can somehow be regarded as harbingers for good or bad, really, it's not irrelevant, but it's difficult to discern when these social media sites have been deeply infiltrated by government interests, unelected government interests at that, or state interests, certainly, I should say, rather. And what if you're a person like me that just deeply, deeply distrusts the state and, in fact, most institutions? I feel like kind of at a loss when I hear that they can just subpoena me and get all my emails and all that kind of. I don't like it, Matt. What are we going to do?
Well, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, you shouldn't like it. You should hate it. You should fight against it. I think it's illegal. They've done a lot of things that they were once upon a time they were caught for this stuff back in the Hoover era, for illegal surveillance, opening investigations on people who hadn't done anything wrong, collecting data on them. They're doing all of the same stuff now. They've given themselves permission to do it. And Americans never voted for this. Nobody in the world voted for this. That's why I think the significance of that Four Horsemen story that you're talking about, it has nothing to do with those people personally. It has to do with the fact that the Twitter right now is defying probably a government order.
Right.
And me personally, like I cheer that no matter who those people are. It's evidence to me that somewhere somebody is alive and fighting, which is important. And, I think you can get disheartened by the inability to oppose this kind of a thing, and I think that's why there's been a lot of enthusiasm about this new regime of Elon Musk for whatever other faults you might find in him.
God, isn't it extraordinary to find yourself as a person that generally is regarded as progressive? And by that I mean that my personal and spiritual views would ultimately always be and have been, let human beings be who they are, let people as much as possible be free in their lives as individuals, allow people to run their own communities without the intervention of the state or corporate interests, find forms of monopoly and tyranny wherever they are, in whatever form, whether they're state or corporate, and oppose them. People should come together to find yourself ultimately at odds with your former allies in that, at least in that conversation, like people that were sort of woolly liberals and wringing hands, bleeding hearts types. Those are the people now. No, censorship, authoritarianism. I don't want to decide. Let the state decide for me. That's a sort of extraordinary thing, and I think it's important to acknowledge that that Twitter, Facebook, big tech, and the state are in no position to be moral arbiters of free speech or other people's conduct in a variety of ways, and it hurts me spiritually. The idea, like, it's against my personal liberty, and my personal relationship with freedom is affected by that. So I suppose that's why you need some real values and real principles. And I say the hallmark of a real principle is at some point it might involve sacrifice, letting go of something that you believe in, or something, or doing something that's not bloody convenient, and at some point, and sometimes extremely painful. This is the part of the show, Matt Taibbi, how was I supposed to know, where we allow Gareth Roy to ask a question because let's face it, he's an important creative voice.
Well, he's a handsome man also, of course.
Well, it's a matter of opinion, really, something like that, Matt. But let's just focus. Matt, it's not some sort of sex club. It's not some 2-bit nipple peep show you've wandered into. I in particular, I'm an investigative journalist. I don't know about you, Matt. I don't know what you do, dicking around on the internet, coming up with half-assed ideas. I'm investigative journalism. While you and Gareth...
we always talk about that. What are you investigating?
That's right. I'm getting the bloody deep state, man. It's getting on my wick.
He does the hard work, so we don't have to, Matt.
That's right. I'm on... You need me. You need men with guns. You need men with nice haircuts and badges to stand near a wall. Not on top of it. You could hurt yourself on a wall. You need me. That's essentially what I'm saying. So... Go on then, Gareth Roy. Why don't you hit Matt with one of the longest questions ever to have been asked by anyone ever?
I'll try and keep it short. Matt, we were really interested. Russell and I were talking earlier about the missile strikes in Poland last week, and the whole mess and furore that occurred as a result, and mainly around the kind of reporting of it. Obviously, that could have been a very costly mistake, is what we're being now told is exactly what it was. How much does this tell you about how lax the kind of printing of that mistake was? As in, we're always told about misinformation, how deadly misinformation is, and how we should be censored because of misinformation. And then you get wall-to-wall press coverage of this being Russian missiles. And how much do you think it also was a mistake? Could you read into it that this would have been a useful thing to have happened in terms of NATO infringement?
Well, first of all, there's a massively insignificant amount of coverage of near nuclear catastrophes. I bet most people in the world don't know that last March 12th, I think it was, India accidentally launched a missile that could have been a nuclear missile. It was nuclear capable, that went into Pakistani territory and could have triggered a nuclear exchange, except that Pakistan elected not to fire back. That's a story that just wasn't covered around the world. It nearly caused Armageddon. And this is another instance where something like that happened. Now, the amazing part of this story was the decision by the Associated Press. The Associated Press ran a story at 2 p.m., which is considerably after the events happened, where they quoted a senior intelligence official, meaning one anonymous person in the American government, as saying that nuclear missiles had landed in Poland. Now, if you're a reporter and you understand the import of that story, I'm going to need more than one source on that, and it's going to have to be someone who's not anonymous, because essentially you're saying that Russia attacked a NATO country, and which would be the predicate automatically for world war. And the fact that so many people ran with that story without checking it tells you the state of like near total irresponsibility of the media when it comes to this kind of thing.
Yeah, it really does, Matt. Thank you so much for coming on our show. Effortlessly handsome, for as far as we know. Brilliantly insightful, well informed, and an inspiration when it comes to looking at information without it being sort of pre-chewed and spat down your neck hole like you're a dumb baby bird. Thanks for keeping us inquiring and intelligent. Thanks for always doing these interviews in front of a drum kit. Thank you for participating in the general spirit of the show. I hope we get to hang out. We're going to come to America in spring next year, and I hope we get to hang out then.
Absolutely.
You're always welcome here. We do this show in a barn. You'll always be welcome with us whenever you want to come. Thanks, Matt.
Would love to. Take care, gentlemen.
Lots of love. Matt. Take care.
Watch entire episodes on demand for free at rumble.com/Russell Brand.